For centuries, human progress has unfolded through waves of industrial revolutions. We first transformed agrarian societies through steam power and mechanization. The second brought electricity and mass production. And the third introduced computers and digital age, connecting the world in ways once unimaginable. And now, in this decade, we are witnessing another turning point. A new phase of industrialization is emerging, one that many celebrate, but many have also begun to question. How much will it give back in return for what it takes from us? We are talking about the AI revolution. Across the world, this revolution is being projected as the next great leap forward. Governments and corporations speak of investment, economic growth, and changes to the labor force, while big tech are rapidly building the infrastructure that power this transformation. But the question is, with every click, every transition, every digital interaction we make, where does that data actually go? AI data centers are expanding across the globe, promising efficiency, optimization, and new opportunities. But every revolution has two sides. The story may be new, but it follows pattern we have seen before. Today, AI infrastructure, especially the large data centers, is increasingly being concentrated in the global south. While some argue that this brings investment and opportunity to these regions, this view simplifies a far more complex reality. The companies leading the AI revolution, mostly based in the global north and other developed economies, are now looking towards the global south, not just for cheap labor, but for something more: land, water, and enormous amounts of electricity. These are resources that many developing countries, including India, are already struggling to provide equitably to their own citizens. As a result, we are witnessing growing resistance to these data centers worldwide. In this documentary, we explore these questions through the perspective of the communities we worked with. We examine what data centers truly demand and what that means for the places that power them. Through the stories of two villages in Telangana, India, Mekaguda, located near a Microsoft data center, and Begarikancha, situated next to an AWS data center, we uncover how data centers reshape local landscapes and life. Let's step into their world.
In India, there are a lot of conversations taking place about digital public infrastructure and the increasing importance of having digital systems seamlessly interacting with each other to enable access to end users. Now, in this entire conversation, we strongly feel that we are losing the perspective of how communities and citizens are navigating this AI landscape. And when we talk about digital governance, data governance, a very key important aspect is the impact of the digital infrastructures. And coming to this study particularly, DEF felt the need to understand the implications, the socio-environmental implications of the data centers.
India does not yet have a binding national policy framework for data center development. However, 15 states have already notified dedicated data center policies or are leveraging existing IT and industrial policies to attract investment in this sector. At the central level, the government is supporting these efforts through various measures, including granting infrastructure status and offering long-term tax incentives. So far, these incentives have shown positive results, with government attracting total commitment investment of approximately $95 million between 2019 and 2025. The sector is now projected to exceed $100 billion by 2027.
So, of course, the rapid expansion of data centers in India carries huge implications on the communities living here. For example, as of January 2026, we house around 271 data centers in India that occupy around 23 million square feet of land. Most of these facilities are based in cities like Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore, and Mumbai, cities that are already facing some kind of resource constraint. For instance, Telangana is considered one of the highly resource-constrained areas when it comes to water depletion and water stress. It is in these areas that these data centers are coming up. It is a no-hidden fact that the data centers consume huge amount of water and power. For example, a single hyperscale data center can consume up to 20 million liters of water per day, or power that can support 1 lakh households. Now, the important point to remember here is that most of these resources are not for circulation, they are for consumption. When you see water being used in a typical industry, you see cold water going in and warm water coming out. But when it comes to data centers, we see no water coming out at all.
But beyond the data and narratives lie real voices shaped by experiences driven by hope. This is where we listen to the community to understand what they see, what they feel, and what they aspire from these emerging data centers. As a part of our research study, we have interviewed local community around both the sites, and what we observed is about their perception and sentiments towards the existing data centers. We indeed have some valuable insights. Firstly, the awareness is still limited, where people still feel that this data infrastructure could be like any other infrastructure around. They do not know how to distinguish it from maybe an IT sector company or something else. But what we have found as a recurring theme is that these data centers can emit radiation. Though it is not proven yet, but people feel so.
నా పేరు మల్లేష్ అండి, మేకగూడ విలేజ్ మాది. వ్యవసాయ రైతు నుంచి మాకు వ్యవసాయం ఉంది. వ్యవసాయ ఫ్యామిలీలో కుటుంబంలో పుట్టినాం మేము. ఇక తర్వాత ఏంది, ఈ రీసెంట్లీ ఒక 5-6 ఏళ్ళ క్రితమే ఇంకొక ఉపకరణం వచ్చింది. తర్వాత ఇంకా అదర్స్ వేరే కంపెనీలు వచ్చినాయి. తర్వాత ఇప్పుడు ఏంటి మైక్రోసాఫ్ట్ డేటా సెంటర్ వచ్చింది. ఇప్పటికే మాకు చాలా ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఉన్నాయి. ఒక తుంగకుంట, ఇంకోటి కోల్బాయి కుంట కూడా ఉంది అక్కడ. ఆ 2 కుంటల కించి కూడా కంపెనీ అనేది కొద్దిగా మొత్తం కాంపౌండ్ వాళ్ళు బౌండరీ ఫిక్స్ చేశారు మేడం. ఈ డేటా సెంటర్ కూడా కొద్దిగా ఎడ్జ్ ఆక్రమించింది కదా. కుంట ఉంది కదా, ఆ కుంట కంచుకి కుంట బౌండరీ మీద ఉన్నది. అది కుంట్ల కించే రోడ్ వేసిండ్రు. అక్కడికి నక్షబాట ఉండే మేడం, ఫస్ట్ మధ్యలోకి వెళ్ళి నక్షబాట ఉండే, అది కూడా ఆక్రమించేశారు. దానివల్ల మాకు చాలా ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఉన్నాయి. చాలా ఆవులు కానీ చనిపోతున్నాయి ఇక్కడ ఆల్రెడీ ఇప్పటికే. అందుకని దానివల్ల కొద్దిగా మాకు ఎటువంటి ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ లేకుండా ఊర్లో గ్రామ పెద్దలను కానీ సర్పంచ్ని కానీ గ్రామ పెద్దలను ఎవరిని కూడా సంప్రదించకుండా అక్కడ ఫ్యాక్టరీ నిర్మించడం జరుగుతుంది. దానివల్ల మాకు చాలా ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఉందని మా ఆలోచన. మాకు ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఇవ్వాలి, మాకు చెప్పాలి కొద్దిగా దాని ఏమింది అనేది విలేజ్ గ్రామస్తులకు తోటి ఆలోచన చేసి చేయాలని మాకు అది మేడం.
So this kind of picture tells you that there is a gap between the awareness and accessible communication with the community. Secondly, though people do not have a lot of backing and information regarding water pollution or electricity consumption, there is something we have found in both field locations. And that is that many people have filed legal cases against land acquisition done by all these data centers. So this shows that even though there are certain uncertainties, but there is tangible resistance.
అందులో మాది కూడా ఉంది ల్యాండ్, మా ల్యాండ్ కూడా ఉంది. టోటల్ ఇప్పుడు అమెజాన్ కానీ పవర్ గ్రిడ్ కానీ 420 ఇందులో మా ల్యాండ్స్ 60 ఎకరాలు తీసుకున్నటువంటిది 7,70,000 రూపాయలు కాంపన్సేషన్ ఇచ్చారు. అమెజాన్ వాళ్ళకి ల్యాండ్ గవర్నమెంట్ అప్పచెప్పింది 1,10,00,000 రూపాయలు.
Thirdly, with coming of these data centers comes the story of aspiration. People look at all this data center with the hope of technological progress and economic boost. They feel that it will bring employment opportunities for all the youth and the people who are in the community. But is it so? These kind of mismatch in the nature and the scale of opportunity these facilities generate need to be asked and communicated. With a history of industrialization and employment growth, the youth in these communities often feel hopeful when such large infrastructure project comes up. But what is the reality when it comes to these data centers? What do these developments actually bring in terms of job opportunities?
25 years back, when an IT came to Hyderabad or other places in India, IT became a huge engine of job creation. Accordingly, many resources, so much encouragement was also given by the government during that time. Not one, many governments across India have done that. Over 25 years, we today see more than 2 crores IT workforce in India that works. That is not the same kind of job creation that we would see with data centers. A data center at a level of 1 gigawatts or 1.5 gigawatts might hardly generate a jobs at a level of 200. That is a job level that is being created by 2 or 3 startups put together. So there is an asymmetry of what is being taken by these data centers and what good do they give out for us, the people. That asymmetry will only come out, we'll also know about it when mandatory disclosures are present in the policy.
And in terms of other resources that the country is already providing, be it electricity, now we see that these data centers are being given up to 50% of concessions for their electricity demands, and also they are saying that they'll be given dual power grids and a specific power grid dedicated for their use. Whatever the energy that it has under concessional, and also the fuels also for the concession for their generators to run and make these data centers work. They are also treated as an essential service. For example, when a crisis happens, something like a COVID or something, we consider milk or food or some sort of transport logistics as essentials. Now the government is considering AI data centers as an essential service. What happens when this becomes an essential service? So they will have an equal priority or a more priority than our needs when there is a scarcity of a resource. That means they'll be prioritized, their water and the energy for them will be prioritized than for our livelihood or daily consumption, or for that we use for our fields or crops.
While India still needs to accelerate its approach to AI regulation, governments worldwide are increasingly addressing how data center facilities impact power grid and water systems. In Europe, the Energy Efficiency Directive requires large data centers to report energy and water usage, improve efficiency, and even reuse waste heat. Countries like Germany and Ireland are introducing stricter rules around clean energy use and grid connections. A similar shift is visible in Asia, where China's Green Data Center standards and Singapore's Green Data Center roadmap make sustainability a key condition for approval with defined targets for energy, water, and carbon performance. The United States presents a different model, more state-led and less uniform, but regions such as Virginia and Texas are still moving in a similar direction, linking incentives and grid access to efficiency. Despite these developments, many journalists and activists continue to raise concern about the environmental and infrastructure impact of data center facilities worldwide.
Artificial intelligence is often described as something intangible. Data, models, the cloud. But AI is not immaterial. AI is deeply, irreducibly material. There's no large-scale AI system without extraction of minerals and labor, without infrastructure development, without land, water, and energy. Across the AI supply chain, this materiality really becomes visible. From mineral extraction of lithium, cobalt, rare earth minerals, often sourced from regions already facing environmental and social pressures such as the Atacama Desert in Chile or the Democratic Republic of Congo, to hardware manufacturing and semiconductor production, which are highly water-intensive, chemical and polluting processes. The chain then continues, during the model training and deployment phases, where computation happens in data centers. Finally, once consumed, the AI hardware components will need to be disposed of. Often, this happens in the global majority world.
More specifically, it also ignores the fact that renewable energies, although far better than fossil fuels, are not free of impacts. Communities across Brazil have for years spoken up about how wind power and solar farms are impacting their livelihoods and surrounding biomes. The data center story in Brazil is happening largely away from the communities that will sit on the front lines of this infrastructure. Decisions are being made behind closed doors, and communities oftentimes only learn about these projects when they are already advanced. However, in cases where journalism has been able to help surface key information about these projects and their impacts, communities have responded by mobilizing and demanding to be heard.
But behind all these complexities, are we missing the larger picture?
The first thing is that who is going on that ground in the community? Most of these are big techs, not even government. So I can't even ask a sovereign question. Big techs are taking these data centers to the third world country or the second world country or global south to park the data which they are using, and that too as a company. They are not even an organizational entity or an association entity or a people-centric people. These are corporate, profit-making big techs. So the question is that, and it's a people's question, is that why are you coming into my area? Why are you, what does it serve to me? And that's what industry does. Industry comes and do mining and do lots of development, and do little CSR to just satisfy people to pacify them. So most of these data center are invasive and invader kind of process. So we have a lot of questions. We need to ask these questions all the time, and we need to make sure that whoever is already there must be answering these questions, and those who are not must be prepared with these questions.